I'm not the house of cards that falls down easily. Oh, I'm strong enough to handle what you throw at me.
Welcome to Mental Health News Radio. I'm your host, Kristen Walker. Just what are we going to discuss? The intimacy that is mental health. Let's continue to make it as comfortable as discussing brain health or heart health. This show has been on the air for several years, and we have amazing co-hosts. And then we created a network of podcasters on mentalhealthnewsradionetwork.com, a place where every possible facet of mental well-being can be talked about openly. My show, after several hundred interviews, the format is this: intimate, deep, funny, touching, sometimes uncomfortable, but always vulnerable conversations with interesting people. The goal is to have you, our listening family, many of you who have become my good friends, feel as though you are listening in on private conversations. Thank you for tuning in and becoming part of this amazing journey with me, and now with our network of podcasters. Just knowing this podcast might be helping any of you realize you are not alone on this journey called being a human being makes doing this podcast worth every second.
After all, we promised we'd be cordial.
Hey everyone, this is Kristen Walker, host of Mental Health News Radio, and I'm here with some very cool people, some listeners of the show that I just did some great work with, Kristin, Anna, and Andy Kaufmann. Thank you both for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Kristin, you've been on the show before with Melanie Van, and you talked about EGALA and I'll butcher it. Tell listeners real succinctly what EGALA is so that they absolutely know if they didn't listen to your other show.
It is a mental health model using horses. The EGALA stands for Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association. Basically, what we do is we have a team of a equine specialist, a mental health professional, and the horses. We kind of unfold a therapy session in that format. It's not very, I'm trying to keep it really short and simple, but...
we're going to get into the details of what I experienced, so that's okay.
Yeah, I know. We are going to get into that. So, but basically, short and sweet, it's a really cool approach to approaching some mental health goals.
Awesome. Andy, I know you have a story to tell about why you got into this. Can you share some of that with our listeners?
Sure. I am a retired Army veteran, did about 23 years, had a run-in with some injuries in 2004 and was medically retired in 2009. I had been around horses when I was younger. My aunt is the president of the Maryland Joust Association, and so I used to see them, and that was my only real insight into horses when I was growing up. We lived in Washington, D.C., and obviously didn't have a farm there. But after my injuries and after I was medically retired, I started a new journey out of the military that I thought was going to be the right path for me, and within about 2 years, 3 years, found out that it was not. I was in the VA system. I was your typical on every pain med, depression med, antidepressant med, multiple meds, multiple surgeries. I was in the black hole of suck is the term a lot of us use. I was working for a nonprofit up in Washington called Code of Support Foundation that is a veteran service organization, and we developed a program for veteran peer navigation where you help veterans and their families navigate, whether it's mortgage issues, money issues, VA problems, housing, whatever it is. We start at their level and work outward for their city, their town, the county, the state, and then national assets that they may be able to use. But while I was up there, we had a gentleman come down from Boulder Crest Retreat, which is the only privately funded nonprofit combat veteran holistic facility specifically designed to help combat veterans through whatever their issues are. And I jumped at the opportunity. I wanted to work there because I wanted to be hands-on with vets and not just on the phone and this and that. And I spoke to their executive director, and he invited me up to go through an interview process and actually go through their program and see what it was like. So in my mind, I was going up to this place to interview for this job and just go through their program to see what it was like so they would hire me. In reality, the 2-hour drive from my house to the facility, I turned around about 4 or 5 times because I didn't want to go. I was too proud, didn't have an issue, screw this. And if my French slips out, I'll apologize now.
This is internet radio. French is
I know.
Fine.
Yeah, so fuck it. So,
exactly.
So I got through the gates at Boulder Crest Retreat and did their program, and it was the most life-altering, inspiring event that I had ever done. I was with peers. We drew mandalas, we walked labyrinths, we did kayaking, and there was a lot of counseling without knowing you were getting counseled. And one of the most life-changing events, there were two things that happened to me up there. One was I learned transcendental meditation, which absolutely helped save me. The other was we got about a 3.5-hour block of instruction. So the military still stuck in my head. So we did about a 3-hour block with horses. And it was, here's the horse, pretty horse. Oh, look, it's a big red horse, blah, blah, blah. And, they were horses. The weather was nice. One of my peers was standing in the stall with his arms crossed, and he had on these mirrored glasses. And, one of the horses kept coming up to him and nudging his arms away, and he kept doing this. And my friend was just getting pissed off. And one of the guides, he basically stopped and said, "Okay, stop. What's going on?" And my friend said, "Well, the horse it's pissing me off." And he's like, "No, the horse isn't pissing you off. The horse wants you to open up." And that was all he said. And that was it. And we moved on to whatever our next event was. And I came home and never thought twice about it. But the story came back. And Kristin can probably tell the story better than I can now. So I got back home, and about a week or so later, something inside said I needed to be with horses, and I couldn't tell you what it was. There was no rhyme or reason to it. So I reached out to one of the kids that I used to coach lacrosse. Mom runs a nonprofit up near where I live. And I said, "Look, can I come out and just teach me more horse stuff? I'll clean stalls, whatever it is. If it has to do with a horse, for whatever reason, I need to be there." So I started doing that, and I did more and more, and I was helping with the camp and helping kids ride, and I was introduced to Kristin there purely for the fact that I think this lady saw that there was more that I needed to know. And through Kristin, she introduced me to some natural horsemanship, some Pirelli stuff, and started talking to me about the Egala model, which I knew absolutely nothing about. The more I got into the horses and the more she started explaining the language of horses, how they sense a person's emotions and how they sense a person's physical actions and the methodology and the modality of the herd. And as I saw this unfolding, not only with my interaction with horses, but with my friends and with my family, and I've skipped a lot of the deep, dark blackness of my journey. But it would suffice to say that I was on the way out, regardless of whether I was kicked out, tapped out, shot out. I was on the way out. So through the Boulder Crest, meeting Kristin, doing Egala, and learning more how to talk to horses and listen to horses and feel their emotions and know and start seeing body movements in horses and being able to understand it and read it and interpret it and help others with it. That was, for me, that was like a huge tipping point. And so then I'm still working at this nonprofit up near my house. I'm working with Kristin at another stall. And she's like, "Oh, come out to the barn that I work at." And so I started working at another stall or another stable. And I did.
By the way, this back and forth is how they are in real life too. Just so everybody knows.
Every time I say something wrong about horse anything, I get abused. So, anyway, I started working out at this dressage barn where Kristin worked. And we started just kind of talking about, I was remembering the experience I had at Boulder Crest Retreat. And I said, why can't we do something, not Boulder Crest Retreatish, but something our own? Right. And let's do something horses. So as we continued to develop this, it was, okay, let's do horses with veterans. All wrapped up into this, I had another epiphany in my life where I became a yoga instructor, and yoga physical therapy, and I focused on meditation and mindfulness and something called yoga nidra. And as we continued to develop and talk about this, we're like, well, why can't we, kind of do a program that incorporates all of this? So to make my long-winded story short, we approached the owner at Glamorgan and said, "Listen, there's half of your facility is really not being used. Can we use it to do this program?" And she said yes. And so now, so it's Checkpoint One is the name of it. And it's right now we're in the fledgling opening stages of it, and it's to all military, whatever status military and their families or caregivers or Gold Star family members. We're slowly beginning our outreach. We've done a couple of briefs, and we've got people coming out. And it's, like I said, it's very, very young, and slow and steady wins the race. But I absolutely love everything that we're doing. I mean, Kristin has taught me more than I'll ever be. I mean, I've already. I don't know anything compared to what she knows, but what I do know is that my senses and my ability to work in the Gala model specifically with very little talking and noticing movements and sounds and utilizing the horse as the vehicle for the individual or the group to get to their own best solution is, it's an art. We don't need to go into the whole empathic realm about it, but it's wonderful. And we're blessed to be able to have this property to do it on. There's a lot of things that we'd like to do in the future. And right now it boils down to we need a lot of money to do what we want to do. We're able to do right now. It's at no cost to those groups, and it's we're loving it.
We're still operating right now at a bare minimum, and we're helping people. Like every week we've been getting new clients in. So it's been from our local community. It's been really good. Mm-hmm. And then we had you, Kristin. We had you come visit.
Yep.
And you wanted to experience the model for yourself.
Yep.
Because there's nothing like having somebody talk about the model, but to be part of the model and see it
and feel it.
It does. Mm-hmm. That's the only way. Talking about it does no justice, and looking at a bunch of pictures on a slide does no justice.
Yeah, exactly. So, I've already talked about it on a few.
That's checkpoint one in a nutshell.
That's checkpoint one.
That's checkpoint one in Andy's nutshell.
Well, before we get into the quote unquote patient or client side, which I'm going to get into, Kristin, tell our listeners a little bit about you and why you do this.
Oh, me. Oh, great.
And we spell our names the same way, and we have a big horsey smile. We got a lot in common.
That's right. Well, I've been doing horse work forever, obviously. I did a lot of instruction when I was younger, and I took a lot of kids to horse shows and competitions, and I rode a lot. But I kind of got out of that because I met Melanie. She was pivotal to me kind of crossing over and finding a gala and doing all that. So once we found that model, I was pretty hooked, and I've been kind of steadily growing that ever since. I started Horse Highlights LLC 2 years ago, and I'm doing work with Egala Works, the Egala Model Equine Support Group, for a local nonprofit called Safe Harbor. And what they do is they have programs for domestic violence victims and sex trafficking victims and childhood sexual abuse victims. So we do equine support groups weekly for them. And that's been what my focus has been for the past 2 years until I met Andy, and then we kind of rolled with this checkpoint one idea. I love this model, and I definitely love this work. I don't think I could ever not do it anymore.
Yeah, I don't see, once you get in there, I don't see how you could stop.
Thank you. And then as far as military area goes, like my husband's a former Marine. He never went into combat or anything, but I've seen him and his friends, who are still in. And then my brother is a current active Marine, and my uncles are former military too. And it's definitely been like a population I've always wanted to address and get into and be able to offer the horses to them, because the horses are just so powerful at pulling out a lot of healing opportunities.
Absolutely.
That's how I got here.
Well, all right, just for our listeners to know, and I've said this on a couple of shows, but I'm going to repeat it anyway. Everyone knows that listens that I grew up with sexual abuse by my biological father, and a lot of abuse, covert sexual abuse from uncles and families, friends, dads, and all kinds of. I've been in lots of therapy. I've been in therapy since I was 12. I speak about this at conferences and And I realized, and this is what I had told you two when I got to your facility, that I thought that this session, and the reason why I even had called you and said, I want to do this. So listeners just know that what was going on with me was I became very afraid physically of a male that I was around last year, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know why I was afraid. It took me about 6 months of being away from this person to realize that that's what the fear was. And the reality was that I had a very valid reason to be afraid because he was dangerous. And so I was just responding to that. I was having a normal response to dangerous behavior, whereas a child, I didn't have normal responses to dangerous behavior because I couldn't. I had to hide in the walls, pretend I wasn't there. And anyone who's been abused knows what I'm talking about. So as an adult, I have a normal response to danger. And the first thing I thought of was, hey, I know Kristin Anna. I know Andy Kaufmann. They work with prey animals, horses. Horses are prey animals. I have felt like prey. I did when I was a kid, and I did last year. I need to really work on that. So in my mind, it was, I want to go do their program. And that's what got me to call you guys and say, hey, I'm coming to Virginia to visit with Melanie. We're going to meet with our Service Dogs by Warren Retrievers. I had this whole week planned, and then 3 days of that was going to be spent coming and working with the two of you and a counselor in the arena with these horses. So when I reached out to you guys, what was the first thing that you thought, being listeners of the show and hearing all my faux pas and all that good stuff?
Well, I was excited because I am so passionate about getting anyone into the ring. I mean, I love myself getting into the ring.
Yeah.
I think I need to schedule that for myself. I want people to just get in the ring and experience it. So for you, I really was really excited to be able to offer you that space to actually explore, that safe space to actually explore the things that you wanted to explore. So I was very honored that you did call. So that was awesome.
And I definitely wanted Andy there because I wanted male energy to be there. And I feel, even though I hadn't met you yet, Andy, I already felt safe with you. So I loved it. I think I specifically said, I really want Andy to be there too. So Andy, thank you.
Yeah. And I remember telling you that because that's part of the Agala thing, that we have to have an ES and we have to have a mental health person, but we can have others. So we can grow the facilitating team. And, Andy is an ES and EQuest specialist through the Agala model, but he's also like our military trauma specialist. So, and facilitates a lot of the stuff. So I remember I asked you if you wanted him there or not, and you said yes. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it was, just so our listeners know, when you decide to do any kind of work for yourself, the moment that you decide to do that work is when the work starts.
I totally felt that when you called.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I immediately started to have stuff coming up for me. And what was interesting, because this is another thing, you think you're going for one reason to therapy, and then you have to let it go. And this is what's so great about being with the horses. You have to completely let it go when you step in that arena, because it may turn into something else. And that's what you really need.
Yeah. And you said a key word that we use in Egala, the word stuff.
Yeah.
And, one of, my journey through the Egala model is I got a load of stuff. I mean, we all do.
Right.
My stuff, I thought my stuff was confined to military. And what I found is that my stuff, compassion, empathy, whatever term you want to put to it, it flows through many different variations of people. It doesn't, the fire and EMS, yoga instructors, yoga people,
right,
kids, people that have nothing to do with the military. And for me, I've really had to learn how to control my stuff. Control is probably a terrible word. How to manage.
Repurpose that energy. Yeah, that's how I look.
Repurpose the energy, hold the energy, but also realize when I'm having it. And because I work with such a good team, when a session is over, I know that I can go to Kristin or go to our mental health professionals or go to the horses for that matter and let that excess energy, and Kristin and I use the term using the colander, and let that energy kind of sift through.
Right.
So it doesn't affect you during or after. And
that's a major part of the Agala training, is that they really embrace that you develop a good team, because the support that we get from each other is pretty pivotal to do this work. But they really encourage everyone to do their own self-care, their own self-work. And they say it's our apostrophe S, which is our stuff. So, because when we are doing sessions, our stuff comes up sometimes too. And it's just that when our stuff comes up, we get triggered by something, we recognize it, we know it, and then we can have it sit with us. And we've worked on it enough that we can just put it in our back pocket and make sure that we're doing our clients well, that we are letting it be their complete space, their process, without any of our stories and our stuff getting involved. So like we can do that. So then, like Andy was saying, after the session, we have a decompressing time. We talk about what happened. We talk about and what we might do next time. And, so we have like a team talk, and if any of our stuff comes up, we talk about that. So the team is an amazing thing. We're getting a little off your story, Kristin.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's fine. Hey, listeners, a quick but important notice for all the shows that we'll be doing for our first responders. In 2018, the number of police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and veterans, anyone who's considered a first responder, who died of suicide was greater than the combined total killed in the line of duty. More attention is being paid, but help is often elusive. Even with more available resources, those who are first in line to help us actually asking for help for themselves, that can be the hardest thing for them to do. Mental Health News Radio Network is working with Stepstone Connect to give voice to our incredible first responders. Stepstone Connect is an organization born of the belief that accessibility and confidentiality will eliminate traditional barriers to treatment. Privacy and the peace of mind that comes with it, combined with easy, everywhere access, underlines Stepstone's mission and treatment philosophy. It's simple. With access to the internet and a device with a camera, you're a click away from leading mental health clinicians who specialize in the treatment of PTSD and other trauma-related injuries for first responders and their families. If you or someone you care about is struggling, please don't let another day pass before discovering what Stepstone can do. Stronger connections, everywhere access, stepstoneconnect.com. You can find out more by going to their website, stepstoneconnect.com, or call 800-495-3761. Now back to the show.
But so anyway, so that's the stuff. So when you start, you bring your stuff to the ring, like you said, about you came with an agenda and all your stuff was coming up, and
we go through a lot of letting the horse be the vehicle for, and I'm using you as the example, being the facilitator for your voice and
the movement of your
and
stuff.
The movement,
because I remember at the end, and I have to shout out, for Agala people, because I know that they'll be listening to this interview. I'm a high empath. Okay, like I feel everything. And you guys, honestly, and you had asked me after, and we did things a little bit different than protocol because, of course, we've done shows and this and that and whatever. Yeah. And that was all agreed with by me and facilitated that it was okay. Yeah. You both asked me, did you feel us when you were in the ring? And I honestly did not feel any emotional charge from either one of you the entire time that we were in there. The minute that we walked out, absolutely, but not when we were in there. I mean, that's natural for, as an empath, but you guys so vacated vacate yourself, but you vacated that from emanating onto me so well that I just felt like I was alone in there with the horses.
And that's what we want. We want to make it so that way the clients in there will be with the horses, and they're so in the moment that they forget that we're the treatment team is in the corner. We want that. And that really does happen. It does. It happens all the time. But from an empath standpoint, it's been hard. It's been a dedication to really embrace that empowered empath place where I can facilitate like this, and especially with the populations I'm working with.
Right.
And the energies that roll, and they roll and they go up and they go down. And, I think we've gotten good at it. Andy's fairly new to this empath world.
But, even, along those same lines, it doesn't even have to be a session. We had, just by coincidence, two gentlemen come out. One came out specifically for a tour, a veteran. Another one came out who was a Vietnam veteran, just from another angle, just to say hi. And we gave them a tour. And as we started showing them horses, showing them facility, it turned into a share fest.
Yeah.
Cries.
Lots of crying.
The whole bit. Utilizing the EGALA model to share space alone is sometimes enough. Sometimes you don't even have to be in with the horse. You don't even have to be with the horse.
So when these two veterans came out, we, like Andy was saying, we just did a tour, and Andy and I did the tour, but it was not EGALA model. It was just like, this is checkpoint 1, welcome, and this is what we do. But it turned into, and Andy and I believe that checkpoint 1 has great energy. It has a really good space to it. You get there and it feels good.
Yep.
And then
it feels safe. Exactly.
The environment safe, but again, from an empath standpoint, Andy and I have worked hard facilitating wise and work and talking to people that we really want to make it so that we offer a safe space, we convey that too energetically, and compassionately. It really comes from our hearts, honestly.
And it starts from when they get onto the property and whether they're doing yoga or walking or horses, whatever. It's continuous through the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you weren't able to feel us.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to feel us. So that's really good feedback. That's the first.
And we'll pass on our technique to all your listeners.
It's hard as an empath to do that. Because it's work on your part, but it's work on the other person's part too. Because what it helped me, yes, the first day for me, I did deal with a lot of that fear. We had a larger horse. How many hands is the big horse? Is he 17, 18?
No.
24.
He's 15 hands.
Oh, see, I know nothing about this kind of stuff.
It depends on whose little hands you're using.
It's your story, Kristin.
Yes, if it's 17 hands for you, then it's 17 hands.
It was a big horse is all I got to say about it. It was big. And then there were two little horses, and I was afraid. I was afraid of being bit. I was afraid of, and I rode horses with a pad and used their mane for, the reins when I was a kid, and ran all through Southern California, rode the horses all through Southern California, got dumped off into quicksand. Horses were not something that I was ever afraid of, but I hadn't, been around horses in a while, and I was there in a highly charged, moment anyway, but I got very afraid, and I knew that I was dealing with some of that fear stuff and some of that trauma stuff. And so the first day, the horses were way more activated, running around the whole arena and nipping at each other and nothing unsafe at all. But they were very highly activated, and I was very highly activated as well. And of course, it's the first day, so you're like, what's happening? What am I supposed to do? I feel kind of dumb. I don't know. Are they running away from me because I'm toxic? These are the things that are going through my mind.
Can I interject one more thing while you're talking?
Absolutely.
You brought up a point about the horses were in the ring and they were running around. And one thing that's true to the EGALA model is that the horses are allowed to be in their natural environment. And I'm doing a little quote there.
Air quotes.
Air quotes. So, they're not bridled up. They don't have saddles on. There's no lead ropes. They're
just horses.
In our facility, they're either in the pasture or they're brought down to the ring, and they are allowed to interact however they need to interact.
So
exactly.
the EGALA model does not teach or instruct any horsemanship. It really is experiential, and the horses get to be exactly who they need to be. And they get to be with the clients in that format. So so go ahead, continue.
Yep, sorry.
No, that's fine. That's very good to make that point. Yeah, this was not about an arena set up with all these different dog agility things. Then I've got to lead horses to jump over no. These were literally 3 horses, nothing on them but their hair and hooves and me and you guys, at the very far end, and our counselor at the very far end of the ring, and me going, what the hell am I supposed to do? And then I just got to this very zen place and was like, okay, I'm just going to start doing different stuff. And there are some things out there, like you had little cones and what are those things called? Hula hoops. And I started putting hula hoops down and putting cones in the hula hoops, and the horses would come and like knock them over, and I would feed, try to feed them, and I was petting them and all that kind of stuff. So the first day was definitely like, okay, I'm definitely afraid. I remember at one point I got down on my knees in front of the horse that to me was like the Titanic, and he came right up into my face, like an inch from my face, and just breathing right in my face. And I just sat there and I realized I wasn't afraid. And at different times we talk during the session. And one of the things that was so great was for me to name the horses. I didn't know what their names were. It's important for me to name them. So for me, the big horse was leadership. And then the little horses were fear and the unknown. And when I came, of course, the first day I was buzzed. I drove an hour, thank goodness it was an hour back to Melanie's house. I got to process a lot of stuff. And then the next day that I came back, all the fear and trauma stuff, that was handled in how it needed to be handled that first day. And then I felt like the second and the third day that I was there was what I was really the more important work that I was there for. I had to get the trauma stuff out of the way, of course, the physical fear stuff. And then I was there to do what I really, needed to do. And that's when things got really interesting for me, because it became about, let me say this. Many times when I go to therapy, it's okay, Kristin, you work hard on yourself, go to therapy again. You've got issues and flaws. And, it's like I'm flagellating myself, whipping myself on the back. Okay, therapist, come on, lay it on me. What's wrong with me that I got to work on? I know there's plenty, hit me. I can take it. I'll work on it. And so I looked at this exercise as the same thing. All these horses are going to find out all these horrible things about me, and I'm going to confront them and I'm going to work on them because that's what I do. And the last 2 days that I was there, this is what the experience was for me. Here's everything that's right about you, Kristin. Here's what's wonderful about you. You're a good leader. You're a caring person. You do this right. You do that right. You need to stop and smell the roses and celebrate yourself more. You need to stop punishing yourself. It was all about loving self-awareness and self-talk. That's what the last 2 days was about for me. And we'll get into that more in a second. But what was interesting was to then leave the session, the last session that we had, and come home and have a big wall of you're not okay. You're flawed from some people that I know very well. It hurt really badly. And for me to go, that's fascinating. So I had a bunch of crap before I did this session, and I have a bunch of crap after the session, all trying to convince me that what I experienced in that arena isn't real. And to me, that's your ego talking. And now I'm like, okay, I've decided I'm not going to listen to that. I am who I was in that arena, and I'm going to move forward in my life from that place. Nice try, negative self-talk, but it didn't work.
I think just the way you described that is, so you went in, so I'm gonna summarize it. You went in with an agenda after the first day.
Mm-hmm.
That agenda shifted to something that you weren't expecting it to be.
Absolutely.
That agenda that it became was what you embraced. And talked very briefly about, using the power of the pause. But Kristin and I were sitting here listening to you tell that story. And as we do in an Igala session, we're looking at each other and we're writing notes. And we're both thinking, pause, let her continue the story, let her get it all out. So everything that you just went through and said and discussed is almost true to every single session that we have. Somebody could go in with the mindset of, my mom's a bitch and this is what I'm going to work on.
Right.
And they get into that ring with the horses. They may or may not identify with the horse, but something shifts, and they may stand there for 45 minutes, and it may not be about their mother, and they may never tell us, which is okay.
Right.
And the other thing, Kristin, is actually your story is a really beautiful kind of testimony to how the EGALA model works so well, because you said that when you go to see therapists, they normally they're like, lay it on me, tell me what I'm doing wrong, tell me what I'm doing, this, what I need to work on, where, as a treatment team, we never tell you anything.
Right.
We have very little to say. We use a lot of clean language, and we really make sure that it is
your experience. Yeah.
And so we never gave you anything either, which I guess we can say this now, but we could tell that was a little frustrating for you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
because you wanted that initial, but it was your journey, is your process. So imagine all the things that you would not have discovered that you just told us had we stepped in and made it more about what we thought you should do.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you get people that have gone to therapists for years and they know the therapist game. Yeah. And they know the responses, and they know what they need to say, and they know what's coming.
One of those people.
Yeah. So when you take them out of that four-wall couch chair, whatever comfort zone, and not that you're moving them into an uncomfortable zone, but you're moving them into an environment that they never thought that they may be able to mentally reach or find or navigate. And by us using the power of the pause and not talking and letting the client and letting the horses talk and do their thing, it's amazing. I mean, like you said, a client can come in, all hyper and the horses are running around. And then, we might call them in to, just say, what was that about? What do you think about that? And while the client may have their back to the horses, we're watching the horses. The horses may all of a sudden settle down and maybe start walking towards them.
And that's normally an indication of a shift in the client.
Yeah.
I mean, the horse is so in tune with the emotional parts of people. It's really amazing work.
And, Kristin brings up a good point. We watch for shifts, but again, in the model, we may see something that's huge. To us, it's like, oh my God, look what just happened. But if the client doesn't acknowledge it or even notice it, we don't say, hey, did you see, that the horses were jumping up and down and doing backflips?
Right.
I mean,
it might not be important to them.
It might change their journey. That's why we work really hard not to do any interpretation or throw any metaphors out. We use metaphors. I'll take that back.
Yeah,
but we try influencing what the client is going through or thinking or doing is not what we do. That's what we don't want to do. It's their journey. And and that's why we have the mental health professional there. So
yeah, that's huge to have the mental health professional. But so Kristin, back to your story. So you were saying that this day 2 and day 3, right? Because you saw us for 3 days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So day 2 is when when things kind of shifted out of the original agenda.
Yep, absolutely. It made me, with this new venture that our listeners know about, switching into a podcast network, and how many things that I do are very organic. I'm not a 5-year plan person. Things just sort of happen organically for me in my life when it comes to money or how my company is going to run or which direction I'm going to go in next. Things happen organically. I don't sit and plot and plan and whatever. There's a plan going on in my head, but I'm very open to, I'll give you an example. This is what going through that helped me. It literally just solidified for me what I'm already good at, but don't look at because I'm too busy looking for all of my flaws. So it told me what I already knew and allowed me to embrace what I already knew. And it was lovely to embrace really great things about myself instead of all the self-talk that you say, you're this, you're that, whatever. So what it allowed me to do with what we're trying to do with what we are doing with this podcast network is, you know what? People will come in and they'll do their own show, and some people will stay and some people will go, and the original people that came may not be the ones that end up here in a year, and all of that is so okay because we're doing this anyway. It's going to be what it's going to be. I feel like it's my soul's purpose to do this. This is what I advocate about, mental health awareness and telling very personal stories about the journey of mental health for people of all walks of life. So I don't need to be freaked out about someone's behavior, or I got to keep this person around, or I got to be careful about what I say here. Nope. I can be like I was in that arena. Just, you know what? I know what I'm doing. I can trust myself, and everything is going to be just fine. And shalala. What do you both think about that?
We were pausing for you.
The pregnant pause, yes.
The pregnant pause. Well, I'm curious about what I heard you just talk about was there was a lot of movement.
Mm-hmm.
In like your talk, like people coming, people going. And so, I mean, I think I remember in your session, there was a lot of movement from the horses in your session.
Right.
So of course that's kind of a little bit of my interpretation. So, but I'm curious about it. So maybe what were some of the things that the horses did, or any key moments that you remember that kind of gave you a little bit of like an aha moment? Do you have any?
Yeah. Being able to set an intention, which is, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the therapist's name, but the counselor that was there said to set an intention.
You can call her M.
M, okay. So what M said to me was to set an intention of what I wanted them to do. And I did that without talking. I did that with just creating pictures of what I wanted. I remembered my interview with Temple Grandin and all the work that I've done with the human animal connection people. And, my own dogs that I've trained myself to, basically poop on command and all that. And I'm a very loving trainer that way with animals. But the big aha moment for me were these quiet moments, which radio is not about being quiet, which is interesting, but those moments where they did exactly what I wanted them to do. And I didn't say a word, nor did I really move about much, or if at all. And they did exactly what I wanted them to do. Any thoughts on that?
No, that was perfect. That's perfect.
There was one point where you had just done an activity with the horses, and we stopped, and I think I asked you, what do you notice? And I think it was what did you notice between yesterday and then maybe it was the second day or maybe it was the third day, but just notice in terms of like the environment. And I think that for me, when I asked that question and you paused and you listened, you had, to me, empathic Andy. I heard you thinking and processing in the gears, not stopping, but very deliberately moving. The mesh was a lot closer. That's the only way I can describe it. And it was like, it was that when we first started, the wind was blowing. There were no birds. Yes. The trees were squeaking. We had a horse up on the upper pasture that was huffing. And at that moment, I'll let you, if you remember that,
yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, that was another profound moment. It was like the earth stopped. There was nothing. There was no wind. There was no leaf blowing. There was no noise. There was nothing going on outside of the arena. And it made me think of, people talk about being in the zone. That's where I get the one place in my life where I'm absolutely in the zone, in that meditative state. I'm in the moment is when I do a podcast. That is the one place in my life where I am totally in that moment. Now, am I aware of all these other things going on, like timing and making sure that I'm answering questions and massaging where the guest is going to go? And of course, there's 100 other things going on, but I'm totally and completely fully present in that moment. And I've felt that way when I've meditated. And so it was interesting for me to take a step back and realize, wow, yeah, everything just got really quiet, still outside the arena, and then, you know, focus on the inside. Is that where you're kind of going, Andy?
Yeah. Just, I mean,
we noticed it as a shift for you.
Yeah.
It was definitely something.
Yeah, it was an important shift around the other big thing that I got out of it was I take care of everybody else. And I do not take care of myself.
Yep. Which that's pretty much, I think, the story of like everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, no, not everybody, but some people take care of themselves real well, and they could give a shit about anybody else. But
right.
But yeah, that was another pivotal moment. I think you had said something outside the arena, Kristin, where you were like, I don't remember what it was, but I had an aha moment of, if I part of this, you're so great, Kristin, you're a wonderful person, you're this and that, this love festival for myself, which I don't allow myself to feel enough, was also, part of your love festival needs to be that you take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So there were so many. I mean, I'm still processing everything that happened. I guess what I want, because I want you guys to come back on again, and I will be coming back out again, and I'm gonna, we've talked. I want you guys working with.
We could continue.
Yeah, exactly. Because I guess what I want, since we're, coming to a close, I want the listeners to hear, yes, talk therapy is very important. My God, it's saved my life. And all the different kinds of therapy that I've been in, and meditation and yoga and exercise, and, there's a million things that are there for all of us. This is something that you add to your therapy. I mean, everyone, in my opinion, should go and do this. It's such spiritual, and if you're afraid of that word, then eliminate it from what I said. It's eye-opening. It's not like any work that you'll do anywhere else, and the benefit of it is going to hit you long after your sessions.
Yep. And we actually tell our clients that, when they leave the first time, they were like, okay, so we'll see you next week, but you're probably going to be thinking a lot about what happened today, which we kind of prepare them a little bit, because a lot of the actual work happens in between sessions.
Absolutely.
Because they're processing and they're thinking, and then when they come back the following week, they've got stuff to say. They've got stuff that they want to, or maybe not say, and it rolls forward. So that's what you're saying there. It stays with you. I mean, I've had my own personal horse experiences, not even EGALA related, where horses did that type of work for me, and it stayed with me, and it still stays with me.
Yeah.
So, it does. They're that powerful, and I can't even. That's another podcast all in itself about why horses are able to do such beautiful things.
You know what this was really cool was when the big horse, the one that 800 hands, that horse would make a circle with his hooves, and then he did it 3 times, I think. And he got down on the ground and he rolled around on his back, and I stood in front of him as this tremendous creature then gets up off the ground. And to me, I felt the power of this huge animal, and them just feeling like, oh, I'm going to just scratch my back, and I'm going to blah, 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 and I'm going to make this space for myself to do it.
Right.
And then I'm going to get up and rise. And it hit me like, that's how you need to feel about yourself, Kristin. You need to make a boundary, and you need to wiggle around and just enjoy it. And then you get up and you rise in that confidence and majesty and beauty. That's where it hit me with okay, this doesn't have to be therapy about what's all wrong with me. There could be therapy about what's right about me.
That's right.
Exactly.
and how beautiful that. And that was a beautiful metaphor, how that horse going down the roll, which is something, they do every day. But that's, that's a self-care thing. That horse takes care of himself. And what a beautiful gift, basically, that he gave that to you right in front of you, which horses do things for certain people. They meet them where they're at. We don't know why they do what they do sometimes, but like it's
the other thing
it's
that we
beautiful.
The other thing that we do, not to drag it on, but when we're done with a session, we purposefully take time to wipe the horses down, to wipe their energy.
Yeah.
So exactly, yeah. It's a care piece for them, and we do that to ourselves. Like self-care with the GP being a colander, but the horses actually need that from us as well. So we actually try to empathically and energetically take care of them, and let them know that
Absolutely.
that they can let go of everything they had in the ring. And I mean, horses are kind of naturally good at doing that anyway. But the work that we're doing, we want to make sure they're our team. They are our team members, and we want them to be taken care of emotionally. They're very emotional animals.
Yeah, and during sessions, they'll check in with us too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do.
It's certain looks they give you. It's coming over to us and throwing their head at us. I mean, they know when they're at their point. And it's our job as a team to make sure that we're taking care of them, and we know that too. So so we don't just throw horses in there and have a free for all.
No, this was all very
Yeah, we have outside of the ring, we have relationships with these horses. Like we know them inside and out.
Yes, you do.
We want to, it's very important to us that they know that it is a very team-oriented thing. So 4-legged and 2-legged.
Yep. And at the end, when we walked them back and you said pick the horse that you want to walk out of the arena and back to the other pasture arena that they go to, and I picked the unknown, and then I had fear follow, and then I had leadership follow behind that, because I learned in there too, the unknown and fear are just a part of life, and a really good leader, in my opinion, follows those things. They don't control you, but you follow them and you listen to them and you're empathic about them. But it was really important for me to be like, I am so okay walking into the unknown, and I'm okay with fear following that, and I'm totally on board with my leadership. So that was the really cool piece. And it made me realize in between shows, I need to light a candle, wipe myself down. Like I just did a show before I got on with you guys, and I just shake it out, ground myself. Instead of what I did in December, where it was just back to back. We get these shows out. And so it'll make me a better host, make it safer for the guests, and, keep doing what I'm doing. So there's going to be stuff that I'll probably email you guys about or call you about, 6 weeks from now and go, I just picked up this too. But that's the benefit of doing this kind of work. And I'm so grateful that I know the two of you, and that I can support what you're doing in any way that we can, and get people, since I'm so much about mental health advocacy, get as many people as possible to go and add this to your stable of mental health care.
Stable.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. Well, please tell our listeners where they can go to find out more about your organization.
We have an online site. It's www.checkpoint1, and it's ONE, not the number one, .org. We have, we're on Facebook, Checkpoint One.
We're on Twitter.
We're on Twitter as Checkpoint One _501c3, I believe.
It's on our website.
Yeah, it's on the website. We've got a donate button, and we're actually in the process of updating the website. So hopefully in the next 2-3 weeks, the new website will be up cleaner, and a lot more information, or just about what we do.
And then also, I know you have, this is Mental Health News Radio, so you're in contact with a lot of professionals.
Yes.
And therapists and counselors. If they are interested, if they already have a client base and they want their clients to maybe get out of the office and get a shift, that's maybe a well-needed therapeutic shift, get them get them to an EGALA, facility where they can do a couple weeks of this stuff, and it does
see
help.
what it brings back to the session room. Exactly. Oh,
And
such a good
it's an
point.
added modality is what
Yes.
it is to a therapeutic treatment program. So they can go to the EGALA website, which is www.eagala.org. There's a place on the website where whatever state they're in, they can look up providers, like people who are already an existing EGALA team. And the other cool thing is that the way the EGALA model works is only one person on the team needs to be EGALA certified. So if some random mental health professional wanted to contact me and say, hey, I have a client that could really use this, I'd like to bring them out, essentially they could be the mental health professional with me on the facilitating team.
Nice.
So that kind of opens up. So, we're not stealing clients.
Right. You're working in conjunction with. Yeah.
It's a very encompassing model in that regard. So
Fantastic.
I would definitely suggest going to the EGALA website as well.
Well, I suggest that. And I also think everybody should just make a trip to Virginia and just go do it at Checkpoint One. But that's my own opinion.
We can do team building. We can do all sorts of fun stuff.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming on the show. I so appreciate it. It won't be the last time for sure, but thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us on to talk about this.
Awesome. And thanks to our listeners for another edition of Mental Health News Radio.
Sometimes I'm passive aggressive, but never without good intentions. I heat up and act on my emotions.
Thanks so much for listening to Mental Health News Radio. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, and hundreds of other podcast apps. Or you can visit our website at mentalhealthnewsradio.com. If you have a question or would like to be a guest, become a podcaster on our network, or join the amazing organizations that help keep us on the air, please email us at info@mhnrnetwork.com. Get ready for that special goodbye from our resident therapy dog, Miles, and a special thanks to Emily Sohn for letting us use her incredible song, Cordial, for our podcast music. Listen to the full song on SoundCloud at emily.sonne.
Don't be surprised when I don't hate on you. After all, we promised we'd be cordial. Sometimes in you I can